Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Um, Dear my colleagues, good day for all of you. Really, it's my pleasure to meet such good teachers like you. Accept my regards. As you know that each teacher should do his best as much as he can to be a professional one and to be also a distinguished one. So ask yourself first before we start, um, how should we prepare ourselves for the new academic year? In another way, I mean that what about your professional development? Have you asked yourself, how should I improve myself? Um, every teacher should be aware of the new teaching strategies and new methods of teaching techniques. Um, Really, that's, to be honest with you, I try to share my ideas with you, and during this crisis that we are currently suffering from right now. So I'd like to share my experience with you, and also I wish I could know all of you to exchange experience and discuss our teaching problems. So why don't you send me your comments, and why don't we keep in touch together? You can send me your comments, and it would be appreciated. As you see that here are some of the documented workshops and webinars and seminars that I attended during the last few years. That's why I told you that we'd like to share experience together. So I prepared this presentation as a training course for all of you. My presentation is going to be about how to be a good teacher. Okay, how to be a good teacher. So let's start our presentation today. Ask yourself first this question and tell me your answers before we complete. How to be a good teacher? What do you think? What should each teacher do to be a good one? What can you do as a teacher for your students to say that you are a good teacher? What do you think? Are you gonna teach them using the traditional way of teaching? Are you gonna teach them using the new strategies like communicative approach, like eclectic approach? What do you think? What's your opinion? Who can tell me? So to be a good teacher, no one can say that we have only one answer. What do you mean? What do you mean? I mean that there is neither an identified answer nor a model answer for this question. We cannot say that we have only one identified answer for this question. If you ask this question to a variety of teachers, how to be a good teacher, every one of them is gonna give you a different answer. So let's have a discussion with each other about how to be a good teacher, okay? First thing, in my presentation, we have 6 points. In this video, I'd like just to convey the first one because I don't like to take much time with you. To be a good teacher, we have to read the 6 questions that I prepared for you. Number 1, what makes a good teacher? Number 2, how should teachers talk to students? Number 3, how should teachers give instructions? Number 4, who should talk in class? Number 5, what are the best kinds of lessons? Number 6, how important is it to follow a pre-arranged plan? Let's talk about the first question. In this video, just we are gonna convey the first one. What makes a good teacher? What do you think? What makes a good teacher? Let's start. Interesting lessons. After you end your class with your students, ask yourself, was my class interesting today or not? Okay, but how can I know? How can I measure that? How can I know if my class was interesting to my students or not? Ask yourself, did I get my students' attention? Did I was my lesson a good one or not? Am I creative? Am I a creative teacher? So a good teacher should have should draw his students' attention. He should be creative all the time. He should create and make new things. Okay. If you do that, so it means that your lesson is interesting one. When you do interesting lessons, of course, your students will love you. How can my students love me? If you are able to enjoy with your students, not to teach, not your students to learn. No, teach and learn can be only one word, which is enjoyable lesson. So, do you have a sense of humor or not? If you have a sense of humor, of course, take it from me, your students will love you a lot. Okay? So, you as a teacher, if you love your job, your students will love you. So you have to love your job. You have to make interesting lessons. Try to be creative. Try to make new things, not usual things. Okay. Try to all the time to draw your students' attention. Okay. This is the first point, and also second one. Let's move to another one, which is teacher's personality. Teacher's personality. As you know that most students can be impressed by their teacher's personality. And when we were young, most of us also were impressed by our teachers. But the problem is most teachers leave their own personality before going into the classroom. So do not try to differentiate between your personality outside the classroom and inside the classroom, because you know that your students tend to be interested in you. By the way, teachers who share their personality with their classes often have better results than those who don't. Okay, I mean, all of us look for good results. In order to do that, you have to share your personality with your students in the classroom. Okay, let's move to another one, which is knowledge. Knowledge. What do you think of knowledge? Each teacher, each good teacher, I'm talking about good teacher, okay? Good teachers should be aware of general life topics and also should be well informed about his subject. If you have a good knowledge in life, if you have enough information about the most common topics in life, and if you are well informed about the subject that you are going to teach to your students, it means that you are sophisticated one. So my advice to you is to care about students' interests and what your students need according to their culture. Okay, so each teacher should teach according to his students' needs. Okay, let's move to another one, which is a good teacher should be an entertainer. How? Entertainer? How can a teacher be an entertainer? If your students enjoy being entertained and amused, they will give you enjoyable feedback about what they learned. And this is our objective. How? That's what we call outcomes. What we all of us are really looking for, the outcomes. You are gonna teach your students, but how can you know the outcomes? This is the problem, that most teachers teach and go out of the classroom. Okay, but ask your students, or sorry, ask yourself, have you measured your students' outcomes? Uh, did your students get your objectives from this lesson or not? That can be measured by different ways. So to achieve your aims from the lesson, you have to be aware of your students' outcomes. You have to ask them, you have to check their understanding to be a successful teacher. Okay? Let's move to another thing, which is excellent rapport. What's excellent rapport? What do you mean? My advice, especially for new teachers, if you would like to build confidence, how can that be achieved? If you'd like to build new confidence between you and your students, that can happen easily by try to discuss with your students their problems. Try to talk with them about their hopes, their aspirations. Try to discuss with them their learning difficulties, the problems that they can face through the teaching process. So if you would like to build confidence, you have to focus, as I said, on your teaching hopes, problems, aspirations, and everything which is relevant to your students. And as I said, I'll say it again, care about your students' needs. This is very important, by the way. Let's move to another thing, which is, do you think that to have a good rapport with your students, do you think that all classes have only one type of students or different types? Of course, you will say different types. We don't have only one type of students. We have a lot. So in your classroom, you can find quiet students, shy students, and also you can find talkative ones. You can find extrovert students. You can find, what do we call, witty students, bright students. So so what should I do? Am I going to teach the brilliant students only, or should I also take care of others? I mean shy students. I mean quiet students who do not talk a lot, introvert students. So a good teacher should make a balance between the two types of students that he already has in his classroom: quiet students and witty students, or naughty students, or talkative ones. You get the idea? So my advice to you here is, if you'd like to be a good teacher and you'd like to build confidence with your students, try to care more with the students who don't put their hands up, okay? What about correcting student mistakes? What do you think of this point? By the way, this is one of the most important points in this lesson, correcting student mistakes. If you'd like to correct your student mistakes, don't offend them. Don't offend them at all. It's a fatal mistake to do that, okay? Another thing, a good teacher shouldn't tell his students, you have made a mistake. Don't repeat that again. It's that what we call a peerless encounter in the classroom. Try to tell your students that you made a mistake, but with tact. I mean, in a good way, not to embarrass your students. Because if you embarrass your students, they are not gonna participate again. They are not gonna talk. They'll be afraid of you. So encourage your students, motivate them, feel them that they are good students. They can do it. Praise your students, by the way. You can encourage them by saying good words. Very good, you can do it. No, very excellent, you are good. And also when they do something right, try to praise your students. Well done, excellent, something like that. Okay, and I know well that all of you do that. Let's move to another point, which is classroom discipline. I mean by discipline means classroom control. Learning as a teacher, for you, learning how to manage your students and how to control boisterous classes is one of the fundamental skills of teaching. You, as a teacher, should never shout, but help others. But give instructions without shouting and making noise in the classroom. So you have to know well how to control your classroom and how to deal with all types of students in the classroom. And that takes us to the last point, which is classroom management. What do you mean by classroom management? I mean how to control and inspire a class. How can we inspire a class? Please make it easy for us. I mean that if you are caring for your students, they will love you. If, for example, if you call your students with their names, oh, they will be interested with you in you. So there are a lot of easy things that you can do to encourage students to learn, to come, to attend your classes, okay? Not to stay home. That was my first part of the lecture for today. Thank you. Enjoy your time. I hope to complete, waiting for your comments and your replies. See you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.